Welcome to our lovely future humans, our 5D collective. Those who are tuning in, the window is open, and so if you hear any extra noises, you know where that's coming from. And as always, in a very informal way, those who tune in, same goes for you. So make sure your volumes are what you would prefer and whatnot. And FYI, welcome to the new one. So what is love? Baby, don't hurt me, and no more. It's been a while since we've done a subreddit Q&A, so we're going to do one of them. And actually, I have such a big list, but I probably go through them over time. Meantime, is it worth it? Yes, but that's with healthy fear, of course. So a securely attached person. That's what self-regulation and sovereignty have to do with it. Okay, so FYI, today there are those who will call love therapeutic. I will call it the same thing I've always called it, but that's because this 46-year-old woman has known what love is since she was a teenager and a child. Right here. It's unconditional. Yeah, so the flame that is lit from within us. Kano, I'm a mystic. Yes, I think I said it right. Yes, the truth. Yesterday we talked about discern truth versus trend. How do you do personal growth and your soul's journey? Well, number one, you need to have your fire lit up here. The heart, not the gut. The gut serves a purpose, and in fact, self-righteous batons, they could all use Patrick Tian to reparent themselves once they're ready to forgive all of the core wounds that they got to go through, which is not funny at all. But my point is, I'm here with the 5D collective who wants to do the ventral pivot. And that's the part of you don't convince people to do the ventral pivot. And so the man who called love a therapeutic relationship, he's a good therapist. And I found out that there's a bunch of therapists who chose to do their job because they know what others go through, the childhood stuff, the trauma stuff. And I'm like, wait, so you did the profession for yourself. But wait a minute, I get it, because I have an ego too, and I'm here with personal growth because I didn't do it for myself, but I do know what I'm talking about. That's fair and square. However, I'm going to let you in on fun fact. I get to take the side of therapists when someone looks at me, a mystic spiritual one, and says that therapists are actually charlatans trying to take your money. And that's because the person and more of people when they have had bad experiences, but also because there's a shaman and a tarot reader and many other spiritual ones who say, come to me, don't go to therapy. So there's not something confusing for those who do know how to discern trend versus truth. It's transformational when you're able to be yourself. Love is transformational, but not in this way of thinking, my first love, yes, it was, that this is someone who I saw and I'm like, wow, no, my first love was my first love. Serious relationship, awesome, 3 times cheater. I didn't do the let me hang it over your head. I do share one of my most funny stories is this, and by the 4th time it was no, denying it, and today we're friends. And people look at me weird, and I think, don't think you know what love means. I love them still, and in fact, when it took me 10 years to become friends again, I was like, wow, seriously, I don't want him. You're my friends. Like, we hang out. We do great together. Like, what's the deal? That's called secure connections, people. So technically speaking, love is the oxytocin gene hormone when you are physically a securely attached human being who has a 3-year-old who says, you can't spank me, it's on my body. That's called ego, self, and a differentiated one who links and says, of course I love my entire family. Your first allo-parenting crew. It's 5 figures. So attachment trauma educated I am, but I'm not going to do all of the teaching because I also fuck it up. But FYI, check out PayHip for some guides if you're interested, and mindset practices and journal prompts. So Kano comes from up here. As you meet the ones who don't have it, they could have it. And the truth is, well, let's see. What do you got, Sadhguru? Knowledge can be acquired. Knowing is a realization. Wisdom you have to earn, and it takes a lifetime. I'm sorry, Sadhguru, I beg to differ. Wisdom, the word of wisdom is when you can diffuse conflict with clarity. Wisdom doesn't get earned. It actively takes a securely attached whole self who's epistemically curious, disciplined, diligent, and loves to learn from those who tell us the truth. There's a 3-year-old in front of you. Bad grown-ups, you lie when you talk about devils and demons because God's perfection is in everyone, and I think you're casting stones. Listen to yesterday's episode. Yeah, the casting a stone ain't a really good deal. As Jesus shared, those who will be whatever the sentence is, I can't remember it all. So, the truth be told, people who enjoy love, it's because they know roll the dice 50-50, but not with a nervous system that is seeking to suffer because 3D suffers. 4D has, one moment, an unsteady self-image, and their enmeshing is completely something that I'm trying my best to learn how to talk to you about. No, they're not sirens because they can't suck the energy out of you, but you better bet their dysregulation is their survival mode. And no matter how many pilgrimages they may go on, and if they continue to believe in demons and devils and evils and just in the mystic stuff, well, let's think about this. Yes, they will continue to create that which is the 4D and 3D content. And they will continue to think that we need to face some kind of big destruction or some suffering moment because we need to be motivated to become sustainers of the planet that we apparently are treating like shit. So when you meet those who have likes and dislikes with humanity, you'll understand why it's not a lifetime. Some of us actually learn pretty quickly. You're in, you're out, and this is called healthy boundaries, and this is a person by the 14 years of age. You choose your next style of parenting. I didn't regret my choice of my lovely first love. The first time he cheated, I said, I told you I'm not jealous. This is not part of who I am. I'm very much empowered. Nobody's like me. I have a twin, and really, you're going to do it again if you want to, so I don't need to be checking your phone like our friends do, plus jealousies and insecurity. And that's it. And then when he did it the second time, I don't remember what conversation we had. By the third time, I said, okay, this is getting old, and we're getting old, so make up your mind. It's really not that hard. Just pick what you want in life. So when someone doesn't know how to wield their mind clearly, they continue to avoid the truth, which is insecurity, like my facade friend, who still has core wounds and is unhealed. No, he will not be clearing his Akashic records at all. When you see Akashic record readers, they do great with those who do personal growth and are on their soul's journey, Lemurian or not. So, activation, yes, the lovely heart. For all of those who are moving into, by the way, we're moving into the 70 now. You own your Merkaba, your star. We're all energy, but you own it because of that lovely love. So it is worth it. Self-love gets given to all others. Like Terry points out, when you love yourself without needing others, it's liberating. And I think it's not just about romance or not. In fact, self-regulation, sovereignty have everything to do with if you're going to be I am presence. Enlightened ones, welcome aboard. It's not a special gift. It's basically you're not going to allow yourself to go out to the desert and die a basically survival mode. They pretend to know what they're talking about. They use words like even quotes, and you're like, yeah, okay, you don't know wisdom yet, because if you know wisdom, diffusing conflict and providing clarity means, I don't want to do that. We're doing the diet. It's good for us. That's my left and my right. And then there's a bunch more. So the bridge, I'm a bridge. For Mystic Spiritual Mindful, on Substack, we're going to have more besides the personal growth, spiritual growth, the tools, the practices. We're also going to talk about, I'm going to talk to you about other amazing events going on, because prayers, they always do get fulfilled. And there's no dead ends for our lovely species. The ones who want to stay far away from us in their small villages, well, one day we'll say, knock, knock, who's there? So listen, the sun, we know what's going on. The ones who think it's all virtual reality too, they're included. We're going to be like, knock, knock, okay, time has come. Do you want to come with us? Or are you going to excruciatingly die of whatever the, I don't know how stars implode. I forgot the description. So how do we protect the future? Stay grounded in reality. That means securely attached. It's not a story. It's an active way of embodying that which is your love and love for all. So the sword of light. When we think of the stories, Merlin, the sword and the stone or whatever, okay, Arcturian light codes. I love being from the future, and I love channeling and downloading. But you know what I know above all? I'm a human, and I'm made of flesh. And no matter how many different ways I can tell you all I'm doing is being myself. And as for my spiritual stuff, you don't have to believe in it. I know science is a fact, not a belief. So when someone wants to tell me there's evil, I'm like, no, there's not. There's Michael Stone, forensic criminologist scale. They all need therapy. They're all surrounded by therapists. But God looks at me and says, we have free will. And I say, hey, God, but determine. Robert Sapolsky says we have none. So, which one is it? Oh, by the way, Memories of Atlantis. I think I'm finding out what Atlantis has to do. That channeled guidance, remember? Oh, and the divine matrix, yes. There can be even 6 waves of twin flames. It's not dismantled because of the twin flame collective. We're all special children. They just don't like to hear it. The ones who haven't taken the ownership of themselves yet. Pleiadian activation. This is for my mystics, because they know what to do with these visuals. For those of you who don't, it's okay. And if you're not seeing, you might want to go to YouTube. The clarity and the organization comes from a mind that thinks and a mind that feels. And then you feel first. You also know that when there's blind trust in a person, you will blindly trust them. You also know that's called, I'm going to take a chance. And you also know that's what love is. And then you don't look to the past and say, now let me crap on someone because they didn't do what I wanted to do. So when you hear the twin flame lover stuff, yeah, remind yourself, empowered divine feminines or empowered divine masculines don't hold anything over the head of someone and be like, you're a fucking piece of shit, because that's actually called not nice. So humiliation, we don't project and do unto others that which we don't want to be done to us. Rejection, also don't do. That's a stab in the heart, because that's the same part of the brain that lights up when someone gets physically stabbed in the heart. When people are not yet strong enough because their nervous system is not theirs, they don't like to hear the word strong. And I don't like to hear the word strong when I'm noticing them forgetting themselves. So trusting into crystals or into astrology or into giving your power out to that which are external aspects doesn't allow you to become the lightning and the embodied amazing person you can be, because when you're in a low frequency, that light, that fire is nothing. It's a defense mode. Protection does not equal connection, but you have third-party people, good mindful therapists, to give people choices. And so today our 3D 4D brothers and sisters can go and get themselves the feathers, the messages. Nothing stops from mystic spiritual life, but you get yourself securely attached, you get yourself whole. Once you're ready to love, you won't be confused about whatever religious streams or downloads or whatever, because you won't be looking at it from an overwhelmed perspective. So 4D, they get overwhelmed, they mesh, then they only use ancient stories, which by the way is not the future. And so they have good omens and bad omens only based on what they will have known. Why? The left likes to know things, because A, B, C, D, E, F, G, it's logical. But also your brain is an anticipation machine. It doesn't like to not know. So comfort is in control. Control is not an illusion. The right can sit in the unknown and doesn't have a problem with it. There's your expert yogi. And guess what the left and right do together when you have an integrated brain and when you love? They know what knowledge is and what discerning means. So when I learn stories from the past, they're not being dismantled because I'm bringing it all in. When I learn science, it's not dismantling anything. When I see ego in a room, I'm like, oh, look, they're competing. Okay, well, you're all adding to the books of knowledge, which, by the way, some people have decided is bad. The whole Adam and Eve story. Yes, and I told to God, they lied to me, and I keep lying, and I don't like liars, because fakos. So when you wish upon a star, I made a very specific wish a long, long time ago. And the abundance energy mode, welcome aboard. So 5D collective, is love worth it? You better bet you it is. Patience is a virtue, and we're all part of nature. And the sustainability is the fact that we do care. So we don't have a destiny written in the stars because, one, we just hope an asteroid don't hit us and that dark matter and dark energy don't implode when it comes to the stars. As for the support of all of it, yes, but it's because of a lot of different reasons. So who has a crystal ball? Well, okay, so I'm going to give it to you this way. Empowered divine feminines are connected to all that is. So when we meet masculines, we understand what they're doing. They're taking the ones, the Lost Boys, Peter Pan and Lost Boys, with Wendy, and they only follow one book because they're so confused by 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They get overwhelmed. You see what I'm saying? So the crystal ball is mirror, mirror in the wall. Who's the fairest of them all? Okay, when people have bad and good omens, they haven't learned how to discern. When you get fickle, it's because you're stressed maybe. Move into eustress when change comes into the mix, and you do the love dance. And so, with that being said, and with tarot coming through, because it actually did want to come through, let's talk about this, shall we? Knowledge, lovers. There's no sirens in a way of being mean to people, okay? They're just poor, unfortunate souls who are not healers, but they say, I'm a healer, I had to eat some of them. And you'll be like, wow, that was a mask. I think that needs Terry Real so you can get seen by someone and work with that adaptive child part. No, you're not doing shadow work with me, that's for sure. You're just pretending. But hey, at the end of the day, I know you have a real self. How about you go own it? Once you become the one, your own one, now you're going to know the heart. Now that you know the heart, you know love. And nobody's going to want to isolate in a cave, because the only ones who want to isolate in the caves and the mountains, they're overwhelmed by the city. And in fact, in the river of the night, Billy Joel and I have been walking, something has been taken away from them. Yes, the capacity to be a part of the ocean, because they don't know how to self-regulate. And so emotions are not contagious. We're not concerned with somatic countertransference. We know how to ground, connect, and that means we stay present, which is your prefrontal cortex. When people like stories more than they do the technical explanation, you know what you have. It's called groupies, because epistemically lazy people just like to pat each other on the back like the flat earthers, allow themselves to say they're right, and we like to let you in on. Fun fact, we don't need to do anything, because that's how expanded, empowered, number one, human being brains, restored, embodied, self-aware, accountable, regulating, loving people are. And number two, for the spiritual ones, it's like, hey, God has everything taken care of. Again, free will, it's your choice. I can't make you do anything. That's actually against every single bit of cosmic karmic balancing. When I saw it take place, I was worried sick. And then luckily I was not worried anymore. And then I also reminded myself how there are those who will consistently chase after that which is their own unfortunate demons, reminisce about it and a lot more, and it doesn't make me think of demons. It makes me think of, it's so sad. So when people suffer relationships, that's not how relationships are supposed to go. And with all that being said, are you ready for what I got to share as the answer to what is love? Is it worth it? Question mark. Okay, so self-regulation and sovereignty. They're what have you experienced love. Teenage boyfriend, I still love him and her the same way. People think it's odd. I think it's odd that they don't understand what love is. Now I can explain it to you technically. People who don't believe in science can go screw themselves. As for the ones who say love is therapeutic, please don't objectify love. That's not what it is. But yes, we do get to continuously build good relationships and move beyond that which can have been relational traumatic experiences. Differences for some of us, as I shared last night, it's easy. It's been easy my entire life. Doesn't mean I didn't cry. No, I cry. Like any other big girls, they do cry. Yes, they do. But I do the ventral pivot. I don't suffer laundry, Zen Master. It's okay, let's talk about what happened. Let's use the inner growth mindset practices we offer. The journal prompts. You think I don't do what I offer you? I do it. It's fun. And there's the 10-minute ventral pivot for those of you who are practicing it as we speak. Okay, so it's gotten easier to love, and blind trust and blind faith in my life partner doesn't make me afraid. I'm vulnerable. I enjoy being vulnerable. It is the one nice thing to be your authentic self and then to be able to be vulnerable. As for the whole stabbing stuff, I mean, betrayal, humiliation, injustice, what was it? Rejection, abandonment. None of these mean anything except for their words. And so what I mean is I can handle this because I'm a grown woman who's a securely attached 0-1-year-old. That's the very specific explanation, because if you're not integrated and whole, you don't know how to do it yet. But you can do it. And panic attacks gave me the best practice of all. As for twin flames, I said, thank you, God, for keeping away from every one of them, because I would have ripped them a new one with my gaze. I didn't need to speak. And I would have looked at them, all of them. And one of them I did get to look in the face. And it was very hilarious as I looked in the face, perceived their armor, still saw the same human being that I know they are, and noticed, wow, if I didn't have all this fucking attachment trauma education, I would say that I would still know something's off, because we'll pick up on each other's nervous system. But wow, you're a fucking amazing liar. Like, this is fucking amazing, because that's how it works when you're like someone so pathological to the point of where they don't even notice what they're doing. And with all the information, I'm not like, oh, I'm so afraid of you. It's more like, you really need to go with all your family to therapy, but the 3D don't want to do it. Nope, it's they sold their soul to the devil. The 4D just make up a bunch of crap about dark matter. No, the dark forces of evil coming to get you. Dark matter and dark energy, that's science, not, yeah, so please, I confuse my words. Anyways, back to the answer. So I explained my thoughts. I shared my thoughts with an individual who was explaining how with their loved ones, when they go under stress, they feel it all, and I get that, because again, as Aristotle points out, a friend you love is like your second self, and whose pain you'll feel. And with all my oversoul, twin flames included, oh, you better bet your bottom. And with all of humanity, because we're all somatic empaths, one, but you better bet spiritual mystics have been perceiving all of the suffering stuff. And while the lady who wants to say it's the 5th and 6th wave of twin flames that have hold the fort down, and all the other mystics want to give the light workers, it's therapists who have been teaching other human beings how to self-regulate. I was like, oh my God, that's why the lighter load, because people know how to use their nervous system now. This is so amazing. Thank you so much, mindful therapist, for what you do. Oh, and obviously the people who are healing who might not like me because I forgive. I get that, but still, I'm like, oh, that's why the weight has been lifted, because more of us are knowing how to ventral pivot. So when someone wants to take credit, a small group, for that which is instead an entire group, 8 billion and growing, you kind of know ego's got to do, yes, what's ego got to do with it? It's basically the 3-year-old who wants to save themselves, and then they take this credit, and we're like, hey, trenders, what's your trend today? Are you using the words from that therapist, that scientist, that? Yes, I use words too. Some people think I make up the combination of it, but I don't. I'm actively helping people who know themselves, and therefore once they continue to do the reading, they're like, oh, wow. And that's why you enlighten yourself, because you already own the self. It's very clear. because you embody your nervous system. As I learned all these words, like the somatic countertransfers, I'm like, that emotions aren't contagious. You just need to differentiate and link. Dr. Daniel Siegel told me this when I asked him about something without mentioning my oversoul and my twin flames and all of the woo-woo stuff, because I wasn't going to bore the class with it. And I wasn't going to care if they ridiculed me. It was, let me not bore science people with mystic spiritual stuff, since they don't all believe in it. Or even if some of them do, some of them might be. You may be right, I may be crazy. Okay, so when people are grown-ups, I'm sorry, when you have temperament and you wield your own emotional volume. So intensity and sensitivity, you're wielding it. So yes, I can cry, I can get mad, all of those, but you're cool with it. Okay, back to the answer before I forget. I say what you're experiencing is part of how we're made as humans, so we co-regulate, okay? Our nervous systems regulate to each other, romantic or not, and we have a relational self that begins a journey with our family members. Please remember, I fuck up the data, forget it. I try to quote all the people I've learned from, but this begins to become so much that it's gonna happen. And that's for those of you who are particularly new. The regulars know it. So I say from infancy, we will have at least 5 alloparenting figures. And by the age, I think it was 11, 12, or 14, right? That's getting fuzzy in my mind, but that's when when we have what is called, the brain goes through a pruning process. So I believe it's 11, 12, but I wasn't 100% certain, so I did /14. We will pick our next alloparenting figures, and then we move into our adulthood brain by our mid-20s. For physiological women, it's 25, physiological, biological men, 28. And the brain is different the way it's constructed, at least from brain studies. Obviously, there are those who don't like to hear things, and I don't like gender stereotypes either, but when I understood how the brain is composed and the neurowiring, I was like, okay, these all make sense for the hunting and gathering aspect of what we could have done. Obviously, you don't close anything in a box, but that's why it's like, okay, the aspects that we have noticed as trends, stereotypes, generalizations, can be applicable, but you don't say they're always applicable, because that's the part of discerning. The truth is, no, averages don't mean the whole. It's just a way to give us the gist of the explanation, which is why dopamine detox doesn't work. We all have dopamine. I'll probably keep calling it yucky dopamine, but please remember, we all have it. Also, the predictable crash zone, that's a bullshit viral trend. The actual crash zone is from day 1 to 14. I am going to use myself. I'm back into the routine of doing my exercises, for example. I've already said, okay, 2 days I took off. I'm going to do it again. Otherwise, I'm going to get back into that bad habit. So our bad habits, we know them. We don't crap on ourselves too much about it. We continue to wiggle our way with mindful training, because you have mindsight skills, sensations, images, feelings, thoughts. You sift them. Mindsight, Dr. Daniel Siegel. Mindfulness is something you know, and there are mindfulness risks. So people who are not integrated yet, they need first integration. And when you give them that advice, because they tune into yesterday's episode and they don't show up anymore, guess what they're going to go do? They're going to go hang out with a shaman who says, come to me, don't go to therapy, I'll save you 20 years. And a responsible mystic spiritual one gets called a charlatan, and that pseudoscience is bullshit and self-help is crap. So the number of ways people get reactive when they're in front of anyone doesn't make me surprised. It makes me know what groupies are doing. They're very upset at life, and their lack of nervous system sovereignty has them seeking information in such ways that I'm like, therapists are bountiful, offering very specific red flags. If you cared about yourself, you would have spotted them by now and noticed, you know what, I'm going to go head on over. So some will say that's impossible. I say no, because again, when we think of love, therapeutic is the word that came out of the mouth of a person who deals with people. And by the way, thankfully, there are those who do care about love. That's why they will want to love themselves really well, take good care of themselves, because as Terry Real says, that's actually love. So love means securely attached people, because we consistently, contingently communicate and we rejoice. It's relational integrity and relational joy. So you don't humiliate, you don't reject, you don't abandon, you don't betray, and you don't do injustice, which is why you apologize if someone's emotions are hurt, not because they're right, because you I acknowledge your emotional upset, I am sorry, but we might begin to continue talking. Some people don't like that but, the way that you'll use the but what's most important is your nervous system, because that's what's going to tell the other if you're genuine. And that's what somatic and mindset resources are for. And then it's because you have pivoted to your ventral vagal state in a moment, knowing and acknowledging, I have a self, they have a self. There's a relational self. I will respect their choice. I will respect my choice. So you are strong enough, and you are courageous and curious. You become curious eventually. You don't need to protect yourself. Those who still have a hard time being present and connected need Terry real so they can start being protected with him and connected. And then as he teaches people how to have, with good therapy, the couples, and that's just one person. You imagine a whole bunch of people. Okay, so the real leaders are the ones who hold the fort down, because with their anchored in ventral energy, they not only say yes, no, they respect. And there's your free will, and there's God as he chimes in to remind me to tell you free will. Turn the other cheek, thank you, Jesus. Forgive for they don't know. Stephen Porges confirms biologically rude people don't know what the fuck they're doing. And believe me, when I see people suffering, I feel sad for them. I don't suffer them. This is where the prefrontal cortex, when you're in a physiological state of compassion. So scientists know what they're talking about. The dumbasses who make up bullshit stuff and the ones who go after it and think that now the power, I've got the power, and don't understand the mechanism, that's why. Smoke and mirrors, a bunch of words. You can tell when someone's putting them together in a way of not actually giving you something of value, because you know what personal growth is, and love, and spiritual growth. You, not me. I already know how to discern. You, the one who's still here at 25 minutes. As there's a bunch of people, oh, they love what they hear. And then they go around and tell you about how they've come to arrive at knowing. Oh, so here's, I just saw this recently, one book, another book. Anyways, I'm going to leave that to later. Okay, so by our mid-20s, the executive decision-making function areas of your brain have finished to develop, so you can make long-term decisions, which is why it makes sense that teenagers make stupid decisions. Also, they have the adolescent essence, essential spark, social engagement, novelty, creative expression. Dr. Daniel Siegel's words and his way of explaining something and his acronym to help me to remember stuff and anybody else. Okay, so adolescent essence, it's a real deal. It don't look good when it becomes Gargamel. It looks like, wow, amazing. I got Pinocchio on the island, Aladdin, Jasmine, all of Mermaid, all of them. They're all in there. Elsa with Don't Siren. And I love all cartoons, believe me, but I'm just saying, like, they're, you know, hero, not hero, and everything, which we all do the best we can to strengthen, support, and teach compassion to the children, and we're all doing a great job. The ones of us who do a third attunement, repair, and rupture. We have a sensitive chip that's regulated. And an intensity chip, so we don't go overboard, we don't go little board, we just relational integrity. Okay, societal reality, remember that social reality is embodied individuals like flat earthers believe in something, you leave it alone, and you actually just think, well, hey, never know, Chicken Little, is the sky falling? Okay, so as I was saying, the mid-20s, just to give the idea, I was saying to the person, to give them the idea of the topic on relationships, the brain, nervous system, attachment, and ourselves, because that's all part of it. And your securely attached self, you're the one who gets to maintain it. Every time there's misalignment, you get to have your boundaries, your back, and then you have the honest, functional inner child adult, because my inner child is always part of it, okay? But if in front of you have a person who does split thinking, black and white thinking, who is actively still suffering from their trauma stuff, there's your 8-year-old, they're not with you. That's why, as Stephen Porges points out, biologically rude people don't know what they're actually doing, and some of it, they consciously did it. They even talked and made a whole plan. Yes, we all understand this. That's why I gave you the example of how my mind tricked my own eyes to see something different because of the blind faith that I have in my life partner, and that I laughed at, he laughed at, and then I said, remember this moment, because if you're ever wrong and I actually twist things on my own, are kind of fucked. So let's remember this moment for each other and others and stuff like that. So you make a joke out of it, but you're also aware, like, I'm a person who is aware of what happened and I can laugh about it. My epistemic trust wasn't broken. You know what it's like to hear from Kylie, who at least she's healing. She knows what split thinking is. So when her fiance proposed to her, she flipped out on him. She says, she tells her story better. She's a narcissist who's healing. She's in remission with borderline, and she's doing an amazing job. And she gets hate mail, which is very sad. And then it's very sad to see a man saying lack of imagination for evil. And for those who want to say, you are rejected, Maria, because you read cards and tarot and all of that stuff and Akashic Records, and God doesn't need it, and you're letting bad JoJo in and Juju. And God doesn't need science, so we reject that there's no demons inside the bodies of anyone because we want to keep upholding. That's not all that happened, and these are different conversations. But there's people who have looked me in the eye and informed me of how I'm rejected, to which I didn't say anything. I just said, I didn't say what you saw was fake. I'm just saying there's no demon inside of anyone, and that scientists are proving that we can all heal. And then I wanted to say, Jesus points out the kingdom of God is within every one of us. God is perfect, not any human in flesh. So, I mean, who's the inconsistent ones? The ones who are upholding stories, but so are the ones who are looking me in the face, who are following those people around and saying, sorry, Maria, they're there now. And what are they harboring? Resentment, because they got looked at like a whack job and they still remember that moment. So what did they not heal? That moment. And they think that I'm like, oh, I'm so happy someone can relate to the fact that I'm rejected. It's like, no. But anyways, that's the frequency, by the way the person's nervous system is embodied. You can tell. Typically, it's a 16-year-old. It's a teenage version of a person with a 3-year-old. And that's why the energies and the 11, 12-year-old. So when I perceive what I call teenager attitude, I just remind myself of Terreal, adaptive child part people, and Stephen Porges, and how he points out they don't know what they're doing, so you leave it alone because you're not going to actually teach them manners, because the maladaptive patterns of behavior keep them safe, and they are the only ones who can notice, oh wait, my behavior, oh wait, my suffering, hold on a minute. I think I'm the common denominator here. There's some really great therapists out there. Let me go get myself some help. And there's a bountiful of them who are giving people resources even so that they can heal without them. One of them is Dr. Frank Anderson, doing an amazing job. And then there's Patrick Chan. He also offers great resources, information. Dr. Daniel Fox. So the therapists are out there trying to help anyone because they understand time, money, you might not have it. We want to help people. We all want to help people. How do you help people? To grow. And that's with the nervous system. So love is worth it totally. And relationships totally worth it, but this suffering stuff. Okay, so the terms I used, I said I've heard the terms I've heard used for us regulating to each other. Somatic countertransference. This was where someone was informing of how you get contagiously contaged by others' emotions, and I was like, no, you don't. You just regulate to each other. But if you differentiate and link, like Dr. Daniel Siegel taught me, you're gonna be able to recalibrate, your insula grows, the capacity to stay grounded and anchored grows. It's very straightforward, and yes, it's very easy, but that's because it's easy for some of us. Some people are like, no, I didn't say it was easy, it's hard. That doesn't really help your body. So it gets easier as you expand the window of tolerance as you're working with it. Panic attacks again. So the other word is biosphere from Terreal and Mui from Daniel Siegel. So Mui, because we're interconnected, Terreal biosphere, that's the couple that he works with. And so I also shared with them that I was going to share some books, which I will tell you all about too. And then I continued to let them in on when you're working with your nervous system regulation, you're going to grow good resilience by anchoring in your ventral as you differentiate and link. Stay connected, grounded, and present, even in stressful moments, which involves when we have our loved ones who are going through stressful moments, because again, we co-regulate. So over time, the ventral pivot self-regulation practice, it strengthens and expands our own capacity to be in these stressful moments and relationships, whatever's going down. As we work with our window of tolerance, we move into window welcome, but you don't talk to yourself. You don't do inner critic, you don't do outer critic, okay? So you don't talk shit about people and about yourself. This is why I brought in the teenager stuff, because it wasn't you're a bad person, okay? It's things happen. We're all different. We handle things differently. So today we all are attachment trauma educated, which is why this is a good thing. And so when we see the signs, it's not gonna be, let me diagnose anyone. No, it's okay. If I have a person who's going to be emotionally unavailable, hey, Terreal, I'm coming with my person to you. That's how straightforward it is for those who understand what love is and that it is worth it and that we are all humans, and to disengage from any of bullshit stories. Hard work to keep a relationship. It's not hard work if you are empowered to be yourself. It's hard work if you don't know how to be authentically you because you're afraid, which we all understand at this point, which means, okay, you know what? We're going to be empowered to be authentically each other and vulnerable. Otherwise, this is not going to be love or a relationship. And so with Terreal, he says people that go to him, they have unfinished business from their own homes because everyone's playing out their 0-8-year-old if they have unfinished business. The non-traumatized 0-8-year-old traumatized charged parts, but the non-traumatization of it, and I'm getting all blah blah with my words, but it's an emotional charge. There's many different ways you're going to see people talking about it, but the point that is more amazing is that the people who do go to therapy eventually get to be vulnerable together. The ones of us who don't need it, it's because we know what vulnerable means and we're not afraid of it, because I'm not afraid anymore, because our 0 to 8-year-old is not afraid of being vulnerable with the people that we love. We're not afraid of being betrayed. We're not afraid of being abandoned. We're not afraid of being rejected. We're not afraid of being humiliated. We're not afraid of injustice, because we're also not enraged. And we are saddened, yes, but we're not saddened to the point of ruminating. So sad, afraid, anger, those are 3 subcortical main areas, and we all have them. Our temperament, intensity, sensitivity. When you own the mind, you own the brain, you own the self, you know what love is. Those who don't like this level of in-depth explanation don't want to take nervous system responsibility, regulation seriously, or the scientist, which, hey, again, I'm not it. I'm the in-between, and I fuck it up, but you better bet that anyone who's embodying regulated leadership and true leadership in here is going to be like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. And it's not because all the words make sense, it's the feeling. So the ones who want to have an authentic self-life are the 5D collective. I waited a long time to actually be able to hone in on exactly, quote unquote, which humans fall within it. And today I know which ones. And again, I have very much love for all of my brothers and sisters. And 3D, 4D make me sad, but it's not my business what they want to do with their life or their body. I can't make them believe in the science, and I can't make them do the work that they don't want to do, because looking oneself in the mirror and a lot more is really tough. And as Patrick Chan points out, it's a fetal position, and that's really tough. So that's why if I'm not liked, I know why I'm not liked. But the point is, when people want to bring me some story about love having to be suffering, no, that's not what love is. You're very confused and ill-informed at this point of what love is from a relational perspective and an individual perspective. So that's why I felt to answer this question, which was very simple with a bunch of information, and to give the person also books. So I said, over time, the ventral pivot self-regulation practice strengthens and expands our capacity to be in these stressful situations, because we work with our window tolerance, expand it, and move it to one of welcome, which is empowering. So when you're empowered, you're like, oh, this is awesome. You don't even use the word strength anymore, because you are empowered so much. And with the knowledge, one thing I wish I would have known when I began my mystic ascension stuff, because Jesus, God, and Holy Spirit, amazing. That's always my one consistent. But moving into mysticism with the twin flames and the soulmates and all of the 4D giving me great information, I will not say it wasn't, but they were not giving me the accurate information. In fact, at a certain point, I was getting pissed because they were just bullshitting on people. And I'm like, stop calling people energy vampires, dark auras, stop talking about dark forces of evil. There's no puppeteer master. Are you done with this? What are you doing? Like, I was just like, you're disrespecting a whole bunch of people in their journey. Like, all you're talking about. And so finally, when I got attachment trauma educated and the whole split stuff and what I was telling you about Kylie, I was like, okay, that makes sense, because your body's going to notice something's off. And it's not going to be evil. It's just something is off. Like, can't place my finger on it. And I placed my finger on it when I got all attachment trauma educated, and I learned about secure attachment, avoidant, ambivalent, disorganized. And when I took my course with DID and disorganized attachment, she wrote her book. I have to get it. I can't wait to get it. That was the moment of truth where my heart got even more sad for those who will not take themselves to go get healed, and who will live a life that is half the life they could live. But what I did learn is that if any of these lovely human beings, who I know some people say they're not, every human being is a lovely human being. They were born like we all were, and there's an answer to every single bit of whatever will have come forth. Now, they may have made their free will choice to not go to therapy and whatnot, but that doesn't mean that we're going to cast no stone. So that's the part of where my heart goes to every single one of those who, as they are tired, and where's my desert? And out in the desert, all alone, with nothing except for their pains and sufferings. As lovely Dr. Siegel pointed out, some of us can be that bridge that will connect them to their humanity. And that is actually something that does make a difference. And in fact, in more than just one book, I have learned of this. And so we do make a difference, as Jesus did, walking the streets, unconditionally loving. And so love is not hard, it grows easier. And you understand from attachment trauma educators why, and then from a spiritual perspective, for me, it's never been hard. And when someone wants to vilify, demonize, and dehumanize, I leave it alone, because He always chimes in. Humility, none of your business, don't worry. He has eyes everywhere. So, but at the end of the day, it's not like in this scary way where people, they love to make up a lot of, well, it's not making up. That's how they perceive. Let me remember subjective reality. So we all perceive life and clairs and all that differently from our embodied brain. So 3D, 4D don't have yet the ventral pivot in the forefront, and so that's where I'm going to leave it to the side, and if they ever want to, though, they can get healed. As Sadhguru's quote on a spiritual master or a guru, and as anybody will know, enlightened ones, they do not judge somebody based on who they are right now. And that same goes for mindful therapists who are also enlightened ones, and know that all can be healed. So when you get a good therapist and you get a person who wants their authentic life, they will reach it. This is where everything's possible. Yes, well, within reason. I'm sure everything is not possible, but I'm saying for personal growth and spiritual growth. So a guru will look at what kind of potential each disciple carries and see how to bring it to fruition. Now, luckily today, everyone can be their own guru, their own spiritual master, their own enlightened one. And that's why these are for the times that were where there was necessity for guides. Today we have a number of different ways that we can come together. He will not neglect anyone just because he does not have the necessary capability right now. And so this is makes me think of parenting, being an adult, a third attunement, repairing rupture. It makes me think of how we leave a legacy behind for a lovely human species to know, and that's why our ancestors, they count. We will always respect, but they didn't know everything, and when we are bringing it all in, we're not disrespecting. The only ones who think mixing words up is disrespectful are the same ones who we say you can go and hang out with your isolated collective of your rights and wrongs and continue doing what you do best, which is, let me leave it alone. So, co-regulation. Co-regulating with people around us is a consistent part of our life until we die, whether we get into committed relationships and have kids or not. I said, I don't have kids, but I have nieces and nephews, and I have loved ones, so I get it. And you will always care about what they are going through, because that's how it works. Well, I'm a nurturer at heart, so I'm always like, oh, are you okay? Are you? And sometimes I have to work with that, because some people, they don't want that, okay? But I say by strengthening your self-regulation and grounding skills, you grow the capacity to maintain steadiness from within and be there for yourself, your loved ones, and any kind of stressful life event without getting overwhelmed or destabilized to the point of it having a negative impact. And that is the part that makes me more than anything aware is the spiritual bypassing community and somatic bypassing, 3D, 4D collective, the ones who do the trends, the ones who are completely just dressing it up. They're doing themselves a disservice, and the entire human species, no, because the policymakers, the professionals, the researchers, that's why on Substack I'm going to do that other thing, and I probably will bring some of the content here too. They do, because they have the ventral vagal state, they have the capacity, they have the desire, and that is going to be making a difference, and then the people in the streets also making a difference. But the ones who are just following a fad, well, they're giving each other a home, like the flat earthers. So they're making a difference in each other's lives, because at the end of the day, when Robert Sapolsky says, determine no free will, that's his book, Determined, and he's trying to say or prove that we have no free will. The point is the embodied brain. Now, I didn't read it yet, but I know enough about the embodied brain and how attachment works to know, okay, yeah, we got it. And some people think enlightenment is boring, and it's like, no, it's not. The most amazing thing you'll ever have is eustress, because it's not distress. Blissed out state, flow state, you being pushed to the edge of criticality by the flow state, really where? So metastability, the flexibility of the capacity for you to self-regulate because your left and right work together. That's an ego and a self and knowledge and empowering. So when people are empowered and want to be empowered authentically, they're going to enjoy it. If on the other hand, they want to be validated in their emotional charge, their narrative, and in the stories they believe in, that's a whole different story. And so if you want, hey Wendy, you're going to read another story to the Lost Boys and Peter Pan so they can go on an adventure? So they're using their time the best way they have chosen, but when they come to someone like me and look and say, you're faking it. It's, no, I'm not faking it, but I can't double down and say you're suffering it, because that wouldn't be nice. It's like putting a finger in a wound, not to mention when you have attachment trauma education, you don't do any of, let me point out to you what you're doing or stuff like that. This is why I'm a healer, heavy drama dump. What healer are you? You just insulted a human being with words, or basically got all pissy at them. instead of being able to say, thank you so much for sharing. Like, what kind of a professional? And that's where people are like, oh, your bar is too high, Maria. Well, excuse me for having a high bar. I also have the high road. Like, and you want to say healer? Like, one, you don't heal people, but if you are a healer, then you learn how to be compassionate, number one, ventral pivot, number two. And if you don't want to, well, then I think you might want to choose a different profession, because that's the one thing that where's your responsibility? You decided you're going to be around people and helping them. What do you think was going to happen? So we don't use the words of the attachment trauma in a way of let me use it so that I can put you in your place. There's actually a term for it, but I forget it right now. So anyways, the books that I suggested, one, Anchored, How to Befriend Your Nervous System Using Polyvagal Theory by Deb Dana. I actually think I did a typo. I'm going to have to go fix that. Two, Interconnected We, open parentheses, me plus we, close parentheses, as the integration of self-identity and belonging. This is by Daniel J. Siegel. Then there's Restorative Embodiment and Resilience, a guide to disrupt habits, create inner peace, deepen relationships, and feel greater presence. That's by Alan Fogel, PhD. And just for the heck of it, I added the left brain speaks, the right brain laughs, a look at neuroscience, the neuroscience of innovation and creativity in art, science, and life by Ransom Stevens, because it's cool to find out from a neuroscientist how the brain works. He also informs you of how the left can become a delusional idiot, the right a judgmental asshole. And I'm like, yes. And then when he says fascinate child, indulgent parent, I say, no, I'm not my parent. I'm myself. Thank you so much. But point is, there's some ways he talks to you about how our left and right work. I haven't finished that one either, but I look forward to it. And so then I mentioned to them, I have guides and daily mindset practices, but that's not probably what you would want at this point. Because the first thing is a person needs to become familiar with mapping their nervous system, and then the entire topics. And then once they've taken it seriously, here's the moment of truth. If the situation, I said, P.S., doesn't get easier, there are other resources out there for you and mindful therapists to help you. You're meant to enjoy your relationships even when life gets tough, not the other way around. And so to answer the question directly, love is totally worth it, and working with yourself to stay securely attached from inside helps you experience it with the ability to grow from moments of suffering and eventually mature with the aspects that can hit hard, but that you continue growing yourself and love from those situations and within yourself. Okay, so that's how love continues to rise, because you never fall down to the floor in a way of it ain't no rainbows and sunshines. Life will hit you hard. And this is Sylvester. Thanks, Sylvester, for the quote. And it ain't how hard you can hit. It's how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. That's how winning's done. Let someone put a finger in your ear and tell you're no good. You needed help, Sylvester. Him, and you needed therapy. We all know it. You ignored him. Anyways, long story short, we're not going to blame. We won't blame, but let's all take responsibility. The adults are responsible for the children. The children are codependent and need emotional, mature adults. That means a third attunement, repairing rupture. And there's some adults who think kids, even as they get to their teens, don't need them. Instead, studies show that even if it seems silly after an operation, having the adult figure present helps you to process something. So when someone doesn't understand emotional immaturity, so 0-8, we're codependent, and you are an adolescent brain until the mid-20s. People don't like to hear it. I'm like, you know what? You go hear whatever you want. But emotionally being there for each other doesn't mean I'm going to there's a whole way that people misunderstand this compassionate business. It's really just being present. You don't have to do much, but thinking that you're not needed is not true. It's a fallacy, because we all need one securely attached figure, and because emotions are from a body that is consistently present with the unknown, unexpected, unwanted. That's exactly, our brain is an anticipator machine. It protects us. Our mind sees patterns. Having someone there for you is always important. The only ones who really don't care, that's not true. They didn't get it. That's their protective mode. You know what I mean? So if you're protecting yourself, there's a reason. But I say, so yes, it's definitely worth it. The ability to grow, blah, blah, blah. As for what love is, I say it's the oxytocin gene hormone active within our bodies and maintained consistently by our inner capacity to stay our own safe haven and secure base. A technical explanation from the securely attached and steady self-image, body, brain, mind, self perspective. But of course, we know that love is also seen and experienced by others via a bunch of stories, culture, and or beliefs. So it will depend on who you ask. And then I say, I hope the post and info is helpful, sending them supportive hugs and love. And as we conclude our own topic, I will let you know, thank you, Bezel, Vanderkolk. The trauma is lodged inside of yourself, and if you want to deal with your trauma, you have to meet your internal experience. And then, as the lovely Dr. Frank, I think it's a doctor, but Frank Anderson points out, with relational trauma, he mentions how, let me see if I can find my notes quickly. But he mentions how healing it is where you can witness it and sit with it, and you then process the charge, but also creating experiences. So relational trauma, you don't do it by yourself, which is why a mindful therapist for some who need it first, and then once you are strong enough to have your own back, you will be able to, with relational integrity, have conversations where you have healthy boundaries and not insult people like that. I'm a healer, how do you trauma dump? I can't find my notes. So long story short though, relational trauma gets healed because you are a person who's caring to do it. People that you are also with care to be of support. And then because we're all informed, here's actually Patrick Jan. He has a great video on why your CPTSD is not getting better. And he talks about how disturbances in self-organization is at hand. And it is separate from standard PTSD, the CPTSD. Relationships, emotions, affect, and the sense of self. Those are all affected. And in his explanation, he allows himself to give tips and what to do and what can and can't do. So thank you for stopping by. Let me share another quote from Sadhguru, though, this time. For a committed person, there is no such thing as failure, just lessons to be learned on the way. And also, as he says, when things go wrong in life, that is when it shows who you are. When things go well, everyone can pretend to be fantastic. And that is the part of where, under pressure, we will pivot to our ventral. Steadiness grows, good resilience grows, and you continue to be a safe haven, secure base to yourself and others. And even when you have those who don't notice they're dysregulated, they have maladaptive patterns of behavior, they're really not in the relationship for the reasons that a lover would be in, and this is just in general. There's another quote, I don't have that one, but they don't know how to give because their own cup is not full. And that is why it's not tit for tat. If someone doesn't know how to self-regulate and you want to tell me you're a leader or you're a personal growth or you're a healer or whatever words you want to use, you're not able to understand how it works at this point in our time. Well, again, ignorance is part of the equation. I just enlightened a bunch of you. Even if I fucked up some data, some words, I gave enlightening information. And so our species moves forward because we take knowledge seriously, and we're rational beings, but we're also spiritual. The spiritual doesn't contradict the rational or the scientific. No, in fact, where are you, lovely Neil? This is actually the best quote to end with, because as he shares with us, when you are the farther removed, let's see if I have it memorized, I've read it to you all so many times, the farther removed you are from objective reality, the less likely it is that you're going to make decisions that will benefit your life, the life of your family, even civilization itself. And as Terrell points out, if you're going to take care of your family, you're going to take care of yourself. Okay, so when you have people who say that they want to be leaders, well, here's love-based leaders, which is why we create leaders. Followers are fear-based, and they actually just want to control, and they do really well. But those who follow them have the same beliefs, the same charged narratives, the same stereotypes, the same mannerisms, and so no sensitive chips. They lack relational integrity. They lack interest in relational joy. They lack it because they didn't get treated with that which is sensitivity and emotional presence. And so they don't know how to, which is why you show them the high road and you have a high bar, and it isn't stressful to be compassionate unless you're not ready for it. And that's where, if people are not, there's Terrio, who, as he pointed out in one of his most recent videos, I can help you be protected and connected, which is the first step to learning how to be a healthy self-worth person with healthy self-worth boundaries and not attack some other random human being or a bunch and be overwhelmed by a bunch of things. So to be empowered means you can stand on your 2 feet, your 2 hands, and then to the future you move, because we have the same capacity as human beings. As for the spiritual, enlightened, groups and all of that, I mean, to me, it's a bonus. It's restored embodiment and good resilience. The book from Alan Fogel explains basically what we're living, which is where the gurus, the spiritual masters, they used to have a certain type of lifestyle. Today, we are embodying that truth through the science and spirituality in our day-to-day, and it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Okay, I'm going to go now. Thanks for stopping by. For those of you who see me, for those of you who hear me, this is for the regulars. We are back and on track. Keep moving forward. And so with channeled guidance, food for thought, as our ascension energies in July are bountiful, I will keep you posted on the advances with Substack and whatnot. In the meantime, check out PayHip for those guides. There's free executive summaries. There's free PDF 10-minute pivot. There's also mindset practices, journal prompts. Spread the word, and if you do have people who want to live their authentic self or are, let them know about IHP. And so have a good one.